Interpreting Test 5, Talking About Divorce. You know, in this country there's a very, very high divorce rate. We've gone beyond, I think, the 50% mark now in some cases. And if you read statistics, what you see is there are 3 peak times that divorce usually happens. Divorce can happen during the first year of marriage when people realize that, wow, they got married on impulse and then this wasn't Mr. Right. The other time you'll see it is maybe during the first 3 years up to the first 7 years is another peak for divorce. And this occurs for several reasons. You know, people may have gotten married and then realized, well, it's not working the way they would want it to, so then they have children thinking that children will help keep the marriage together. And then they realize once they have children that it's still not working. So these couples feel sometimes that it's better for the children if they divorce than live in a relationship where there's a lot of fighting or bickering, you know, either physical or emotional abuse going on, because they feel that's very bad for the children to see. Unfortunately, in these situations, children are involved, where the couples that get the divorce during the first year, those, at least you don't have any innocent children involved. So that is the second peak, is when children are in the picture, like I say, somewhere between 3 and 7. Then the third peak time for divorce is interesting. It's generally after 25 years of marriage. And during this time, people will say, okay, we stuck it out, we raised our children, we made sure they made it through school and they have the things that they need, and now it's time for us to go our separate ways because excuse me, we don't share anything in common, and we just stuck it out. But now that I'm going to reach retirement, I want to be sure I have someone that I can share the rest of my life with, who will enjoy doing the things that I enjoy doing, and who likes me for who I am. And therefore, this is the third peak, is when adults say, you know, we don't have to stay together for the children anymore, so why don't we split up? When older adults get divorced at this time, and you know, think about it, if somebody got married when they were 17, right out of high school, and then they get a divorce 25 years later, they're still, you know, relatively young. And with the age that people live to be today, with many people being very healthy and active in their 80s and 90s, that they do have several years, you know, that they may want to invest in another relationship. I think when parents who have children, again, even grown children, decide after 20-some years of marriage to go their separate ways, that's hard on children also. It's hard on them in a different way than what happens with parents of young children, because during those years, you know, going back to those who get divorced during the 3 to 7 year mark, those children are still in their formative stages, and then when special events come up and holidays and so forth, it makes it hard for the children to split time between different families and so forth. But I think it's equally hard in a different way when parents divorce after 20-some years of marriage, because then their adult children are like, why are you doing this now? You've been together all these years, and that's equally hard to do. As part of your test today, I want you to think of a vocabulary building exercise that is used in high schools. It's part of Rubin's book. Dorothy Rubin wrote it on vocabulary expansion, and she has this little story about divorce, and I want to go now from what I've said and read this to you, because this is typical of what happens sometimes social problems class, where they're pulling across the curriculum something they're doing in an English class coupled with a topic they're discussing. So this is about divorce, and go ahead and keep interpreting this as part of your test. My best friend was the first of our group to get a divorce. After having been married for 2 years, he decided that matrimony wasn't for him. He told us that his wife behaved in a very maternal manner to him, and if he wanted someone maternal, he could go back home to his mother. His wife, on the other hand, did not want a divorce. She felt there was no justification for one. She wanted them to go to a marriage counselor, but my friend didn't want to. In all justice, I should say that my friend is an arrogant person who thinks a lot of himself, and that his wife would probably be better off without him. He has always made derogatory remarks about his wife, so we didn't know why he married her in the first place. When we interrogated my friend about this, he said he had met her when he was a juror. She too was serving on the jury. It seems that the case was a very complicated one, and they spent a lot of time together. She had a strong sense of justice, and during the trial, she tried to see to it that justice would triumph. The case concerned a controversy that had been going on for a long time, and that finally ended in violence. However bitter the controversy, there was no justification for the violence. One juror always tried to divert the others from their purpose, but his wife always got them back on track. She helped the others see the dilemma that the defendant had and how he felt that he had no choice. My friend said that he fell in love with her and then wanted to marry her. Interestingly, she did not want to enter matrimony with him at that time. She is a nurse who works in the maternity ward, and she didn't feel that she was ready for marriage. My friend pursued her. He actually said he would advertise his love for her in the papers if she didn't marry him. We were surprised to hear this, since, as I said, my friend is such an arrogant fellow. It seemed incredible to me that his position was in the converse now, and that he had such adverse feelings toward his wife. My friend said that he did indeed love her when they were first married, but he doesn't now. He said she treats him as if he were an infant in the maternity ward. She's not very versatile, and she's not able to change her role from being a nurse to being a wife. He felt that she would not change, so he decided to get a divorce. My friend, though, still hasn't gotten a divorce because they haven't decided how to divide their property. His wife has refused to discuss it with him or the lawyers. She feels that they have too many things in common and many similar tastes. She uses the simile to express what she feels is wrong with her husband. She says that her husband is like a spoiled baby. There are a couple of things that come out in this piece, ladies. One is that, people do change when they get married. Sometimes they change and people grow towards each other as a couple. Sometimes they change from the standpoint that they reevaluate their values and they stay who they are and what they believe in, and they don't want to budge. I think it's interesting in here that he talks about how he didn't want a mother for a wife. He wanted a companion. And this becomes a topic then for social problems classes about why we marry people in the first place and the reasons for getting married. One of the things sociologists frequently point out is that you should marry someone because you like them and you want to share your life with them, rather than you need them or you feel you need them to be complete. Sociologists often stress that you need to be happy with yourself and feel like you're a complete person in your own right before you marry someone that you want to share things with. So this was rather an interesting article. It's kind of interesting that many churches today go ahead and do pre-nuptial counseling with couples before they get married to make sure that they're both going into a relationship with their eyes open, because even the most in-love couples will find they can fall out of love and not like what someone does during the course of a relationship and have to work at, getting those feelings back or on a workable plane. However, in this country, we don't require parents have courses in child rearing, not childbirth, but how to raise children and how to be a parent before they start a family. And we look at all the issues that some parents have today raising children, of how maybe those could be avoided if there were the same types of classes. But that's a topic for another discussion. Enough said about marriage today and planning. But I just thought this was an interesting piece that, like I say, can bridge the curriculum between an English class where vocabulary would be, we'd be working on building vocabulary, to a sociology class that would be talking about getting married. All right, this concludes your this test.